software with DB services. I'll be going over several optimizations you can make in your application to increase its usability and to prevent the slowness of the system, essentially giving your users a better experience by following these practices with layouts, scripts, database and relationships, and hardware. Now, first we're going to go through the layouts, essentially whatever a user is going to visibly see. These are the most important UI elements that need to load quickly for your user's sake. Now, the first thing I want to go over is the amount of things on a layout, keeping it clean, concise, only information you really need, and making sure that everything is in a similar theme. What is a theme? It's a set of styles you can set up within FileMaker right here. Now, these themes have styles for each individual object here. So to show that off, we have like default, order, secondary, and have different styles for an individual theme for different objects. Now, why do you want to keep it to a single theme? Whenever a layout loads, it needs to load every single style within the UI itself. So whenever you have it all on the same theme, all it needs to do is load that theme with all of its styles once. Now, I'm going to navigate to an inefficient one, which right here, as you can see, it's a little bit of a mess on the eyes, but that's not the issue here. So let's say we have different themes for this text. That's a whole different style. And this field is a whole different style. So each individual layout object needs to load before the entire thing is displayed. And that'll increase slowness and cause problems in the long run. The secondary thing you have to take into account is making sure everything is modular and unnecessary calculations or summaries on the layout itself are not used. So summaries and calculations can allow an ease of making more complicated displays of maybe a number of projects to a contact or a summary of how many records you currently have. These are all good. However, if we have too many, each time that the layout needs to open or load for a user, it needs to calculate or summarize that field. So it's best recommended to only use when necessary and whatever it is extremely useful to do so. In any other case, use an auto enter, which an auto enter is a editable text field that only populates under certain conditions, rather than a calculation that whenever it is being addressed, it will need to calculate for the user. Moving back, when it comes to layouts, portals is a good way of displaying different information from a separate table. So here we have contacts and then their projects underneath. Now, the best way for sorting or filtering, say you only want to see the internals like you see here, or you only want to see within a specific date range of a portal. Now, there are two ways to do this, and it would be recommended to do it on the relationship level and not on the portal itself. To show this off, we have a relationship here that within that relationship that goes through contacts to projects using individual fields to make the filtering, and for the sort, just using it on the relationship itself rather than the portal. The reason for this is it takes out a lot of the refiltering and sorting each time that a layout is loading. So every time that you would load a portal that has filtering or sorting needs to sort every single time that this portal is loaded. Now, moving on to scripts. Scripts, there are many ways to keep scripts concise, and here are a few tips to follow. One is whenever you enter your application, it is best to open with an empty screen. Many applications, when they open, have many things to calculate. So it is best to put it on an empty screen with no records. So a table like sessions or preferences where there will always be just one record. So it can go through all the processes beforehand and doesn't edit any object or data. Just in case you were going to the context screen as an example, and you started doing a commit or some other process and it accidentally changes one of the records. Second, when doing a find, in most cases, we would recommend using it in this way, is go to the layout you want to do the find on after going into find mode. This prevents any kind of odd triggers or anything on the previous layout and the layout you're going to. That way, it doesn't do any odd commits or odd calculations in between, causing you to go to an even separate layout. Whenever running a script, it is always recommended to use freeze window, this step here. It prevents object rendering and window refreshes, essentially freezing you on the current screen it's on. So if you were to move from screen to screen, this will prevent a user from seeing that navigation. And the last step that I'd like to go through is when refreshing. It's best to just keep refreshing to a minimum unless necessary. Whenever you refresh, it needs to calculate everything again on the current screen you are on. So it's better to, when refreshing, let's go to this example. Let's say we updated the database and updated the date of birth to be a different value. And we had a calculation field here that would need to be refreshed, or an auto enter that needs to be refreshed. Each time, it's better to refresh that individual object rather than the entire screen, because it would require the portal to refresh, all the other fields to refresh, and it's just unneeded downtime. Now, going to the optimizations for hardware, there's some specifications Claris has that would recommend. It'll be a link in the article that go through each individual step. Just remember to use a dedicated machine if you're using a FileMaker server. That only has the purpose for running that server. Having any other processes with that server can cause issues in the long run. I'm going to save. And here are a few steps you can take for optimizing your file. And contact DB Services for all your performance optimization needs.